The ride of your life is Daddyhood.
For those of you who cannot wait and love Daddyhood, please head over to our Patreon. We have exclusive access to episodes, we have early access to episodes, and we have behind the scenes footage. Head on over there, sign up, be part of the exclusive Daddyhood group, and join us over there. Welcome back to Daddyhood. We are on my path to parenthood, and I am joined by my idol, this person that I look up to.
Yeah, right.
I aspire to be. I cannot wait to be one day. I'll
You'll
have
get
to
there.
be Colton the dad, not John the dad. John the dad. Welcome to Daddyhood.
Thanks for having me.
All right. I obviously fell in love with your content, but I knew you before you were John the dad.
Yes.
I mean, you were always the dad.
I was John the Dad, but not trademark John the Dad yet.
Yeah. Now you created this monster, and it's incredible. You created multiple monsters. You have them.
Yes.
You have
I
them in your house.
This is my third monster technically that I created.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, before we get started, I'm practicing my dad jokes.
Okay.
And obviously, I'm really scared to go there with you because you're a professional.
I'm a seasoned vet.
So, hey, John, what do you call a belt made out of watches?
What?
A waste of time.
That's pretty good.
Okay. Can I get, I want to get grades, A through F on all these. You know, people say that they pick their nose.
Yeah.
I just feel like I was born with mine. I got you to laugh. That's a good one.
That took me a minute.
As I was reading, I was
stupid.
like, this doesn't make sense. And then it hit. That's a good dad joke.
I'll give that a B plus.
Yes. Okay, cool. John, did you know I had a neck brace fitted a few years ago?
No.
I haven't looked back since.
Okay. C plus.
Okay, all right. We're going the wrong direction. Why did the student eat his homework?
Why?
Because the teacher said it was a piece of cake.
C.
Okay. I'm going to get you with
Okay.
this one. What did one candy bar say to the other candy bar?
What?
I got some Twix up my sleeve.
Okay. A minus.
Yes. I'm going to stop there before I keep embarrassing myself. I hope my kid has a speech impediment. Is that bad?
Why?
It's so cute.
Oh, well.
Like, I just, like, even reading that, I was like, oh, I want him to say
When they're
like,
little.
Twix and that. Yeah.
They will.
I don't want to minimize speech impediments because,
Yeah.
I know people actually go to get, theirs removed. I was one
Right.
of them. I had a lisp when I was growing up.
Oh, did you?
But I just think it's endearing
Yeah.
and it's cute.
Yeah, they will.
You're like, yes, they will.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into this, I mean, this whole podcast was set up because I wanted to highlight different ways people build families.
Okay.
And I know this because we're friends, but you were adopted.
I was. I was 9 days old, but adopted at birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Did you have to explain that to your kids yet?
no, because they don't even understand what rain is or
Yeah.
simple.
You're like,
things.
we haven't got there yet.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I will, and I always knew.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that I'll have to talk to my mom actually about like how do you explain it?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's I guess it's kind of, you just tell them the truth. Like I was from, another woman's tummy or, and then I'm with this family and they just kind of have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan and I have already been planning on like how we have to explain all this.
Yeah.
We've collected photos of our egg donor. We've collected photos of our surrogate, and we're like preparing our files
Yeah.
basically to like walk them through what we had to do to have our little ones.
It's definitely, it's good you're thinking about it because, regardless of how it happens, whether it's adoption or, the various ways that you can bring a kid to this world, like at some point that conversation needs to happen.
Yeah.
And I personally, you've heard about people that don't find out till they're like 18. And I think that's personally kind of wild.
Yeah.
Because it's like a big lie. But
Right.
then telling a little kid,
I mean, I've heard stories where people don't find out until they're in their 30s. I mean, as recent as 23andMe, which I was talking to my lawyer about at one point on one of the episodes. And, obviously my kid could potentially do 23andMe and find out who their
Right.
biological
Yeah,
mother
I
is.
know, it's so wild now.
But,
I was born in the late 80s, so there wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just through the Gladney Adoption Center. And when I was 18, I filled out a form that said, because it was closed adoption. So it had to be like my reaching out. And I don't even know what happened because I submitted a form to say I was ready at 18, but I didn't end up meeting my birth parents until I was close to 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so when did your parents tell you that you were adopted?
I don't remember. So it had been super young.
So you were very young, you knew.
Yeah. And I felt like I had this conversation with my mom the other day. I felt like I, wore it as a badge of honor or because it is interesting. And it was like always a fun, like, party, tell something interesting about yourself.
Yeah.
I'm adopted. Oh, really? What's, so you got to kind of get the spotlight in that regard. But my mom told me that I actually was like embarrassed about it when I was little. Wow. And I didn't want people to know. And I don't remember that. Okay. But yeah, she said that I just didn't want people to, think I was different or whatever it was. Yeah. So
you go when you turn 18, you go and fill out this form. Why did you have a reason you wanted to go meet your birth parents?
Yeah, I think just the curiosity for the most part. And then you kind of, who could it be? What, yeah. But then I doubled down and actually there's with Gladney, like you can just, what is it? Like you tell them I'm ready and they'll like, I think for like a $400, there's always a fee for everything for $300 fee. They like contacted my birth mom and then we had to connect through, and then she had to say, yes, I'm willing to connect. And then we had to send letters back and forth through them. And then we had to have like a therapist, like not a psych evaluation, but like a therapist session to like warn us of, how it might go. And then we were given like carte blanche and here's their phone number and good luck. So, but I think people do it later in life. It's not later, but when they start having kids, because then you want to know family medical history. Yeah. So I don't think of it because it was so normal for me. I don't think about it any other way, but like, I remember doing the family tree stuff in like 7th and 8th grade and mine kind of being like moot
or like
because
a question mark,
a giant asterisk on it because it was like, I don't know.
But it was still mom and dad.
Yeah. And it was still mom and dad. And so I learned like, the family history of my adopted parents who were my parents to me, but I actually did an ancestry like a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And that was like one of the most fun. Like I was just a week. I was just like connecting dots, going back to, Spain and
wow.
But that like, think of your whole life. You don't know your ethnicity.
Right.
Right. So I have like dark eyebrows and we were like, is it Hispanic? Is it Native American?
Italian?
Yeah. We didn't know. Yeah. And turns out I probably could have got a college scholarship because I'm 25% Hispanic.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad's mom they're from Mexico by way of Spain.
Got it.
So you see her and that family and like, it's very clear that they're Hispanic.
Yeah. So you did all this digging, all this research and out of curiosity.
Yeah.
We're preparing ourselves for if and when that day comes. We're going to be as honest and truthful as we can along the way. But ours is completely anonymous and closed and like sort of transactional. Like this is what we're planning on doing. But we also want to be able to give our kids the freedom to be curious.
Yeah, absolutely. I think personally telling them pretty early is the move.
I think they're gonna know.
Yeah, I think they're gonna know.
Our situation is they're gonna know. We can't hide.
That's true.
Biological.
That's true. Yeah, my cousin adopted 2 girls that are African American. Yeah, and she's not obviously. So that's another thing where it was like pretty obvious. Yeah, pretty early. But I kind of looked like my adoptive parents, and especially my dad had the dark eyebrows, but then I was 6 feet tall in the 8th grade and my dad was 5'9". My mom's like 5'5". So after that it looks, there's a picture of me with my mom and her siblings and I like have my arms around all 4 of them.
Incredible.
Come here.
Incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
well, I think it's important for people to know the secret. And that is, you are the voice of Daddyhood.
I am. Well, the musical voice.
The musical voice. The intro theme song, the outro theme song is John the Dad.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right. Thanks for letting me do that.
This is going to lead right into the world that I want to dive into with you, and that's creativity and sort of how you've built this platform. And your videos are incredible and fun and what Instagram was made for instead of what it currently is. Yeah. So thank you for contributing that way. But also, talk me through, I mean, I obviously called you and I was like, yo, dude, I need a song. And I want to say I did 100% do that because I watched what you did with your Fisher Price video. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
And I didn't know you actually play instruments and you can actually sing.
Yeah, that's how this all started.
Okay. So walk me through that.
Yeah, so I have been in a band forever. We even played trombone in the middle school band. Like I don't know about a band geek, but I've always played piano, then trombone, guitar, bass, high school, garage band, and then have had a band forever in Dallas, and we have a 90s band called Topanga, which we still perform, which is awesome. But I grew up really liking like Weird Al and Adam Sandler and like people that would make like parody songs. Yeah. And so I wanted to I made a comedy album called Toddler King, and John the Dad was what I went by. So I released that January before last. And I was like, I need to get that. I can't it's good. Okay. It's on Spotify. It's called Toddler King. Half of it's original, half of it's
we're putting that in the show notes for people who are curious.
Yeah, it's good.
Is it PG? Is it like
yes. Okay. And that's a big thing for me is that I don't cuss. And one of them's called there's Toddler King. What is the other one called? It's basically about going to sleep because it's called Get Some.
Got it.
So that's a little bit more risky.
Get some sleep or get some?
No. It's the kid is in bed with us, cuddling up, and I'm like, I'd like you to go to bed because I'm trying to get some from mom. Got it. So that's
which is a question that I had later on.
Yeah,
for
which
you
that's
like,
one's probably the most inappropriate, but so I don't cuss, and I just try and keep it PG because again, I grew up with the Weird Al. Robert Munch is a really great storyteller from the 80s and 90s who used to tell funny stories. So I just Mr. Rogers, like I just feel like we need more wholesome stuff. And if you think of like Home Improvement and a lot of the shows we grew up with, they maybe said a couple of cuss words here and there, but they found a way to be funny without being, vulgar and inappropriate and making sexual innuendos. So I launched the album, and I knew from my experience with my band and I'm not famous. So I was like, if I launch this, no one's going to hear it. And I can send it out, which I did, but I mean, whatever, they might post it to their story, but whatever. Right. So I needed to build a brand. And so I started a comedy page on Instagram and TikTok and started doing, so the strategy was, okay, I'm going to start putting some funny content out there, grow a following, and then I'll promote the music. Well, I kind of like forgot about the music part, to be honest. And here I am with, it's been a year and I have 50,000 followers, TikTok, 50,000 on Instagram. And I've got like, partner with Fisher Price, like so much has happened in a year. Yeah. And I haven't done a lot with the music. I still want to, but it's just funny how it happened where I was like, you know what? I really just like acting and, bringing these ideas to life. And
we'll promote the music for you. Okay. We haven't forgot the value and the inspiration behind John the Dad.
Yeah.
So it's all music driven is sort of what your inspiration behind the page was at first.
Originally it was just a way to promote the album.
And then when did you know that you had something or you were on to something?
I had a couple go viral in March. So like 2 months in on Facebook.
The green screen one?
It was husbands versus wives getting ready for company.
Okay.
And where the wife is doing actual things that need to be done before people come over, and the husband's like fixing a cabinet and like dusting the paint cans in the garage, like things are like, what are you doing? And another one about a kid just not wanting to eat a spaghetti. It was whatever. So they both hit like 2 million and 1 million on Facebook, and I was like, okay, so this is connecting, but what's happening is that my content is sort of like a tree falling in the woods, like nobody's seen it, but when they see it, they like it.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of kept grinding it out. And then in July 1st, 2023, I had one on Instagram go off for 20 million views of me hiding in a JCPenney rounder as a kid.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to do husband stuff, I'm going to do dad stuff, and I'm going to do 90s nostalgia stuff. And that was like my 3 pillar. And then from there, it's just, every 2 or 3 weeks from there, something would go off. And so here I am, like just... It's honestly something I've been wanted to do since I was a kid. I used to try and make funny videos on the camcorder, and now like I didn't think I'd wait till I was 34 years old, 35 now to do it. But I realized I needed to become a dad first to like hone in on what the topic would be about.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar to me with a podcast. I've
Right.
been offered however many podcasts, and I was like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, this does.
Yeah.
And like that, like it flips.
Sometimes
like that
it
switch
just
flips in your head, and you're like, oh, this is it.
And you need certain experiences to have anything to talk about.
Like
sometimes.
hiding in a clip. Kids these days will never know how much fun that was. I used to play hide and go seek with my brother in Walmarts and Kohl's all the time growing up.
Our childhood is insane when you think about it.
It really
compared
is.
to today's standards.
We look like dinosaurs now.
Yeah.
So you're getting into building this content and you're sort of finding your lane, you know, and I think it's important. Like, this isn't your full-time job.
No.
I mean, this is like a side hustle / like fun thing you do for
Mm-hmm.
creativity purposes. But I mean, I come from a different world where I just went on a TV show and all of a sudden I have millions of followers on,
Right.
social media is overwhelming to me as far as like doing a content schedule and all
Mm-hmm.
that. Do you record all yours and you sort of have like a planned schedule of like releases, or how many do you bank at a time?
I'm usually running and gunning pretty in real time.
Because you're a full-time dad too. So
Yeah.
not only do you work and have a job.
I'm also just that way. I'm kind of a procrastinator.
Yeah.
And so I don't do things ahead of time. I mean, I do, but you know what I mean? Like, this isn't something I have to do. It's like my livelihood's depending on it. So I fit it in when I can. I do it 6 a.m. sometimes.
Yeah.
I do it on a lunch break sometimes. I do a lot of it at night or on the weekends. But a lot of times I'll just be experiencing something and I'll be like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then the next time I have free time, I just pull out my $25 Amazon ring light
Yeah.
and
Go to town.
film it. And and then I do all the parts, like very Eddie Murphy, Nutty Professor style.
So your wife and your kids are the ones that are like motivating you behind the videos.
Yeah. That's how it started, but it has taken a turn to the 90s.
Yeah. Well, the
Nostalgia
band
stuff.
one, the band ones did really
Band
well.
one has
I was a
gone-
fan of those too.
The 90s rock singer. Again, you know, that was just me driving home. A Pearl Jam song came on, and Even Flow, and like I've always loved to just like make fun of how they sing, and I was like, what if it was Eddie Vedder, Dave Matthews, Scott Stapp from Creed, and Hootie and the Blowfish all hanging out? Which, I mean, people have riffed on that before, but I don't know. It was like, I'll just make it, and then it gets 4 million views.
Yeah.
And now I'm on part 6.
Just
With Bare, I filmed one yesterday with it's Bare Naked Ladies, Blues Traveler, Stained, like It's Been a While, and Black Crows. So
and because as soon as you know one works, people will like scroll through your reels to try to find part 2, part 3, part 4. Obviously, I've seen like how into this you get. Like you have outfits and scripts and all of these things. And then like I'll see those and like maybe they'll have like 3,000 views. And then you have this one where you do a green screen that probably took you 20 seconds. And then all of a sudden you have 20 million.
yeah.
That has to be frustrating.
It's
Because
super
like
frustrating.
the algorithm, I mean, I've obviously experienced that too with like brand partnerships that I've done, or a certain video. I was like, I'm so proud of this.
Yeah.
Like I paid a production team. Like this is so great. And then it gets
maddening.
100,000 views. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's maddening. I think there's something to like my like feeling towards this is that something about when you're letting the creativity like freely just flow,
Yeah.
it just does better. I don't know. And when you really are like, all right, so this is gonna be shot 1, and then we're gonna cut to shot 2, and she's gonna be sitting here, because I do think that way sometimes. I'll plan it all out. I've had shot lists before,
Yeah.
and they never. I mean, sometimes they do, but usually they don't do as well. And there's just something about just running and gunning and like, this is what I think it. You know, this is the joke as it comes out of my head. It's honestly like I'd say 90% of the takes I use are the first take. Same thing.
Wow.
It's just, and I'll do multiple because I think take 1 sucks, and then I'll look at it, I'm like, that's the funniest.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but yeah, it's still frustrating because you're like, you'll put all this time and effort into it and it bombs, and then you'll just shoot something real fast.
And I mean, and in my opinion, they're just as good as the other ones. It just for whatever reason,
for whatever reason,
it doesn't like the other ones.
The algorithm doesn't like it or something, but yeah.
It's frustrating.
You can always repost them.
Right. Exactly. Well, how have you been able to like balance? I mean, those are 3, like social media these days is somewhat of a full-time gig.
Yeah.
And especially growing a page like you have you been able to balance that work life, family, husband, father, like all these things?
Yeah. And it's definitely not easy. And I have moments where I feel like my cup is running over and I get super overwhelmed, feeling like I got to do all these things. But
Yeah.
my day job in marketing since I've been working professionally has always involved social media. I used to even run social media pages for brands.
Got it.
So I feel like I'm just it feels very natural to be on there. I think that helps, but I just really want it bad.
Yeah.
You know? And now, when you become a kid, especially with toddlers, you like have no social life. Like our social life is like, when's the next kid's birthday party? Okay. That's when I'll see my friends. And I've kind of gotten okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, I like hanging out with my wife and kids and making memories in the house and doing whatever. So I don't mind getting
How old are they?
I have a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I really like making content and making funny videos. And I hope that I have a lot of messages of people saying like that, and it makes me feel good because they're getting it. Like, not only is it funny, but you're making me feel heard and seen. And this is a really stressful time. Yeah. Having toddlers is super frustrating. and so I turn that energy into something fun, and then other parents see it and they're like, okay, I'm going through that too, but it reminded me that I can laugh.
Right.
So I'm like super driven. I want it really bad. So I just, you know, instead of sitting down and watching, like I don't watch TV nearly as much as I used to, YouTube videos. I'm like, I don't really want to consume content. I'm going to create it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't relate on the toddlers running around yet, but I can relate in like when I'm scrolling past, I stop on it every time because it isn't, you know, social media could be a dark place these days, and like things are so heavy. And I mean, even like in this world that I'm operating in, like the fertility journey and family building is hard. And to some people could be a little triggering because of like the trauma and journey that they had to go through. So to have like a moment where you could just be like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air. Like this is relatable. It's funny. It's good. And I'm going to stop and watch it.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I appreciate
can't
that.
relate on the toddler thing, but I can relate on like the positivity. I think it's really needed.
Well, you can relate on the 90s nostalgia stuff though.
That,
it just kind of takes you back to being a kid. And I think that social media is one of the best and worst things at the same time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so I want it to be a place. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to sound like cheesy, but like, I feel like a kind of purpose-driven person, and my purpose in life is to entertain. I can just tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in bands and choir and everything since I was a kid. And it's like, especially we're going into an election year, it's going to be twice as insane. I'm not looking forward to any of it. Right. But if someone can, between the angry, crazy memes, they just see me dressed as my wife, you know, complaining to her husband.
Does she ever have a second outfit, or is it always going to be the pink sweater and headband?
I've started to change it up.
Okay, good. I mean, unless that's all she wears at home.
No, I've gotten that.
What has her reaction been to all of this?
She's been super supportive.
I've seen a couple movement ones, so she's recorded some, but not all.
Not all. Yeah.
Okay.
I get a little embarrassed.
Do you really?
I do. Yeah.
But I'm the same way. I won't. Sometimes when I'm doing ads, I don't let Jordan.
Yeah, if we're in a time crunch, that's another thing. Like you asked, how do I fit it in? And I'm also just like, I always try and do it either when the kids are napping or they're not home.
Got it.
And I like when the kids and my wife are both gone, I'm like, all right, like
you're in your zone.
Stop me. I can be as weird as I want in here. But yeah, she doesn't film too much. It's funny. I think the second or third video I ever did was her. I'm like, you know, when you made your kid a delicious meal and they're throwing it. And so she was throwing meatballs and spaghetti off camera at my face. And we like got in a fight because you could see her hand, and like, that doesn't matter. But at the time I was like, Mr. Perfection. I'm like, you can't. And I was like telling her how she was supposed to throw it. And she's like, I'm not going to do this if you're going to act like this. And like, you quickly become like, this like kind of jerk creative person.
I hate to admit this, but that's something similar happened to Jordan and I. Was like, you're not getting the right angle. Yeah. He's like, well, I'm not a content. He does not do content ever. I was like, okay, I'm sorry.
And they're just trying to help.
All they're trying to do is help, and they're trying to do their best.
But she's super supportive, and she thinks it's funny, and we run ideas off each other all the time. I'm like, what do you think about this? And usually it's go for it, or even just like, what should the caption be? Or and now I think as it started to take off, I can see her getting like very excited with just like the impact it's having, and you know, she's just got like secondhand excitement for me. So
I want to ask you this, because like I still, even at times with every show that I've done and put out, like it is nerve-wracking leading into a premiere of a show. On a similar scale, when you hit send on that reel or Instagram, you're sort of being vulnerable, right? You're like showing a side of you that some people don't really know, like the people at work, your friends, are like, oh, this is sort of weird because this is not how I know John or Jonathan. You know, like how was that for you? Like going through like being so vulnerable with your creativity and then having people have opinions about it.
That was the hardest part, was starting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I still have moments like I'll put on a wig or something. Like I dress like a woman a lot.
I mean, it's good. It's a great bit.
I mean, you're
good at it.
It's like Key and Peele. Like if the character needs to be a woman, she's going to be a woman, you know, and sometimes I'll like look and I'm like, man, I've been dressing like a woman a lot. I should like switch it up, but
it works.
Yeah. It's, you know, like, cause I've done obviously for my wife, but sometimes I've done for my mom. And now I've started like, you know, I've started doing 90s rock singers or just like whoever, you know. I did one the other day that I felt like it should be two moms talking because I didn't think that it made sense for the topic to be two dads talking. And I did have someone, you know, I get the comments of just like, why couldn't it have been a dad? Why did you have to dress up like, you know, I get those comments, but I think, I don't know if any of my friends are watching or listening to this, they might agree that I think everyone was probably like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
What is he doing? And I think we all do that. If I saw somebody that I've seen people try to go be influencers or creators, and you're kind of like, there's something about when you know them, and it's exactly what you said. When you know them in one way, and then they start doing something else, even if you're supportive, it's still at times like a little cringy, and you get secondhand embarrassment for them. And there's videos that I've probably put out this week where I'm like, oh man, that one is. I really took a leap on this one, and I'm uncomfortable. But then over time, you know, I got people like once a week since I started, I had someone text message me, tell me in person, or, you know, tell me in my DMs, keep going. Yeah. I've had a lot of people that I went to high school with, elementary school with. I had someone go, didn't you grow up in Colorado? In a TikTok comment last week. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, you went to middle school with my brother. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about him. I love your videos. I've had people from college, bosses, former bosses, all say this is really good.
That has to be so validating too.
It is, and you know, there's also the part of like, what is my work gonna think? But again, I'm not being super inappropriate or doing anything. I try to keep it on a, you know, so my kids are gonna watch these someday. And I don't want to like bring shame to the name or anything like that, but it's definitely vulnerable and putting yourself out there. But I think that's why most people don't do the things that they really want to do, is they're afraid what other people think. Yep. And I got to, you know, they say that this is scary, but you're technically middle age starts at 35, which is a terrifying stat.
3 years for me.
I wish that didn't exist. And I think there was something when I turned 34, I was like, I've always wanted to do this. Yep. And if I don't do this now, I won't do it. And I was like, I will be hopefully an old man one day, and I will be pissed that I didn't do this. Yeah. And all of a sudden I did this post around New Year's that you maybe saw where I talked about that. I was like, the fear of not doing it became stronger than the fear of doing it. And I was like, I just gotta do it.
And well, I mean, I remember when I first saw the video, I had to do it. It wasn't like a bad double take, because I was like, oh, that looks like Jonathan.
Oh, he does that?
I was like, I know him. And then I was like, oh, wait, that is him. Yeah. And he's going by John
and we only knew each other in a professional setting, really. Right. So you're like, and all of a sudden I'm doing something completely wheels off. And you're just like.
But I just thought I thought it was sweet. Yeah. I was like, oh, good for him. Like he's trying something new. Like this is cool. And I remember like commenting, and you were like, thanks. I remember the text, you were like, thanks, dude. It means a lot that you like were supportive. Yeah. Cause like, I mean, I could only imagine there was a handful of people who were like, what are you doing? Yeah. But I just thought it was like good for him, because very few people try to pivot or change or like live out their dreams. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like, once again, like the way I relate to it is like, I made a big decision in my life, like just to change and be more authentic. Yeah. And if that's like your authentic self of being like, I want to create, I want to make people laugh, like you're doing it. Yeah. So
it feels good. It's the most content and satisfied I've ever felt in my life this past year.
Amazing. Well, I want to get into some dad advice. Okay. Because I have lots of questions. And one was how you handle bedtime with them in your bed. But we can get that. We'll keep it PG. We'll keep it PG.
If I can help. I'm still learning.
You're like, I'm still in it.
Yeah.
how do you balance? Because Jordan and I have these conversations all the time because we have dogs and he is very much the disciplinary and I'm more like the cuddler and like, let me feed you. And I do all that. And he's like, you have to be the bad guy every once in a while. Like he gets on me for that. He's like, the dogs hate me because I'm the one who has to discipline them every time. How do you balance being like cool and silly and fun, but yet have boundaries and rules for your kids?
Yeah, that's my biggest struggle. So it makes sense. That's the first question. Cause I mean,
we can come back to it.
No.
too.
I mean, I think about it all the time. I could talk about this for a long time. It's really hard. And my wife is not the disciplinarian I am. And, but she does a good job and she's had to you'll work on your parent voice where it's not a scream, but it's just like a firm, like, you will not do that. I'm not going to let you hit me. That needs to stop right now. But last night I put them both on the bed because they basically flooded the bathroom after not eating dinner. And I had them on my own and I put them on the bed and I was like, you need to listen to what I'm saying. Do you have ears? And they grabbed their ears. I'm like, okay, we're going to listen. And they probably weren't listening. They probably won't do it. But you have to find a way to set, like you said, boundaries. And there's this quote from Tom Landry, the football coach that I guess used to be on the Cowboys locker room or somewhere that said, you encourage what you tolerate. And that always struck me. I mean, that applies to a lot of things in life, but maybe a relationship or whatever. But it's like, if you tolerate things that are just, you don't want them to do that, then you're saying then that's okay. Right. And so I just try to be as goofy as silly as I can when I'm in the good place with them. Yeah. And I try not to blow my lid too bad. Cause my dad had a really bad temper. Yeah. And I didn't think that I had that bad of a temper until I became a parent. And I'm like, wow, I do.
Yeah. I'm reading books right now. And that was something, the chapter that we've been reading every night, but like one of the chapters was talking about that, about different, two things could be true at once and different experiences and how you handle certain things. And also parenting, you very much parent in somewhat of an opposite way of how you were parented. Like you go out of your way to make sure that you fixed what happened and you sometimes overcompensate. So it was really interesting to both. Like read that.
Yeah. Cause I definitely am feeling like I've lost my temper way more than I thought I would by this point. Yeah. But I mean, and you see all the gentle parenting things. Yeah. But I'm like, okay, take a 3-year-old or 4-year-old and tell them to do something 50 times. And then on the 51st time, try and not lose your shit. Yeah.
I'll say it so you don't have to. I mean, I can.
I mean, we've all had dogs, most of us. Yes. And when they're puppies and you're like, hey, don't chew up the furniture. And then you come home and they chewed another couch and you're like, you see red. Yeah. But to your point, I also felt like with, my dad was born in 1950. So just about as baby boomer as it gets. And I'm a very sensitive person and very emotional person. And I think that he did not know how to but he didn't know how to like parent side of me. And I don't think that was him. I think that was a generational thing. Yeah. So I see that my son is very sensitive and my daughter is, I don't know if she's as sensitive, but definitely both emotional kids. And so I have the wherewithal.
You're good.
I have the wherewithal to try and be better. Not saying my dad was bad, but try and be better of managing those things where when they get upset about something, not just being dismissive and be like, you'll be fine, but just be like, what's wrong? Like, and it's like, oh, she took my bunny. And it's like, you'd be like, get over it. But it's like, okay. And how did that make you feel? And so some of the gentle parenting is definitely accurate and we're working on it. Yeah. But at the same time, you have to like, if your kid is hitting you in the face or hitting their sister or biting, my daughters are like biting and stuff. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. You're going to timeout.
Yeah. I mean, look, I understand like you can try to prepare all you want. Mm-hmm. Like I roll at some of these chapters and I'm like, okay, like in a perfect world, this is the way that I would handle a situation. Right. But like now let's paint the situation in the park with 4 other people running around and you're on like a Zoom call and you have to handle like, the life goes on. Like life is happening around you. It's not like this perfect isolated environment where you can like implement what is in those books. Yeah. So I know I'm just going to have to try my best. And I'm sure like the other thing with this is like, I'm sure parents out there, moms, dads, are going to have advice and opinions. I'm already experiencing it. We're like, you need to do this. You need to have this product. You need to only feed them this. You need to only do that. And they're already giving me their opinions where I'm like, you know, even at the top of this, I was like, I'm sure people are going to be like, why would you wish that your kid had a speech impediment? Like there's going to be people that are like that. I'm like,
right. Well, they also, 20% of people just can't understand a nuanced joke.
Well, that too. Yeah. I was like, I don't really mean it, but I also it's cute. Like I'm going to love my kid for whatever they have and however they're born.
Yeah,
like that's just like my job as a parent is to love them. So
I think that I think the best, because I don't think anyone's asked me in my advice on parenting really in a while, but I think it's not as much about the kid and whatever your kids end up being like, it's how you react to it. So I think that one of the best things that you can do, and any parent soon to be, is, you know, work on yourself. But it's like be open and realize you're not perfect, because I think some of the worst combinations of that a parent can have, characteristics that a parent can have, is being stubborn and not open to change and thinking that you know everything. You know, we've all had, someone I'm sure listening had a parent like that, or they aunt, uncle, grandparent, whatever, or know people like that in their life. And it's like people that can't be coached, right? It's like, if you can just be honest and open with yourself, and that first time that you lose your temper and you're like, oh my God, give yourself some grace and don't beat yourself up, because I do that. But realize that, like, okay, how can I work on not reacting that way?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because my son, like, he yells a lot, and I don't know if he yells a lot because that's the way he was, or if because I yelled at him a lot when he was 2 to 3, because I didn't know what else to,
I
didn't know, it was like, this kid's not listening. But yeah, I think it's definitely, it's like everything in life, right? Like you focus on what you can change, and what you can change is oftentimes like your mood and your approach to things.
Yeah. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Have you done your skits in front of them, or have you been in character with them?
No. I've
Okay.
never done it in front of them. I don't think I'd ever do it in front of my kids, just because they would ruin the audio.
Well, that, yes. And then
I show them the videos though.
Yeah.
And they think it's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they're your number one fans.
I had the hardest I've heard my 4-year-old laugh was when I showed him one from a couple weeks ago where I'm pretending to be him. And the video is when you're playing with your kid and he starts saying really weird stuff. And he's like, and I do the list, like, Daddy, I'm gonna eat your booty, and I'm gonna put a booger in your ear, and like, I'm gonna make you drink toilet water or whatever. And my son was like, he was the funniest thing, which I'm like, God, now he's gonna say all that.
I know. Now you're empowering him.
But it was 4-year-old humor, and I was like, and they just scroll and they're like, do this one. They have like their favorites now of what they like.
That's great. Would you ever, this just came up today actually on a call, like as I'm preparing to talk more about this series and like with the media, boundaries as far as like parenting goes. Mm-hmm. Would you ever share them on camera? I got asked that for the first time, and I didn't know how to respond. I said, I'm going to have to make decisions as we go on. And it's a conversation that I have to have with my husband.
Yeah, man, I feel like I'm going to piss somebody off with this, but I personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with putting your kids in your content. People share family photos. I know it's different when you're, famous and there's more people looking at you and stuff, but, and even people like, there's a lot of people out there a lot of like dad and mom creators that use their kids, they like have them act in it. And I think that's a little weird. Personally. I
agree.
I think because
you're using them as a prop.
And I realize like I'm doing this, and they're looking at me, and they might want to be influencers and creators now because they're watching dad do it. But at the same time, I feel like when you're actually putting them in there and they're probably being like, how many views do we get, Daddy? Like, I don't know. I feel like that's when the kid's 6. I just feel like that's a little odd. The thing though that I really can't stand is when people do the fake candid stuff and have their kids like where they're like all hugging together, and it's like, when you realize that you only have 16 years left, and it's like, that's a good message, but I'm like, because I'm thinking through I'm thinking through how they shot it.
Because as soon
And,
as they cut, they're like, get out of the way,
Like,
move.
all
I
right,
gotta edit
all right,
this.
we're all gonna act happy. Come on over here.
Yeah,
Come on over.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
get it. No, stop. Get your hand out of your mouth. Get your hand out of your mouth. Okay.
Smile.
All right. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. No. What are you? And it's just like I know that's how it goes.
Totally.
And they put the sad piano music on it, and it gets 6 million views, and it's just like, all right.
It's like those couples too. I used to see it all the time.
Yeah, couples do it too.
Even from like my bachelor days, I would see some like the couples who are like freshly off of a new season, and they'd be like cheersing, and I'm like, yeah, you film that and you cheers and you're all happy, and then you guys spent 30 minutes on your phones not talking to each other at your dinner date.
I saw one the other day. It was like when you just want to dance in the rain together, and this couple's danced in the rain. I was like,
you went and dried off and
What are you doing?
edited this video right after.
what are you doing?
Right. Yeah, it's a balance. I've had to find that too, even with me. Is like, I mean, as you know, because you've worked with brands and social media pages before, it's a fine balance between I need some of this for work, like it's good for career, it's good for promotion, and like you sort of need it, but it's a double-edged sword. It's hard to like sort of find that balance with social media of like, how do I show my authentic self?
Yeah.
When it's like, it's not authentic.
Right.
Like, unless.
Yeah. Don't pretend to be authentic. I don't really have any patience for that. It drives me insane. When I see people doing that, and I'm a firm like creators, not like being negative on other creators, but I think there's a way to get your message across where you don't have to pretend like you're in this happy, perfect situation, like where they're all cuddled up on the couch together. And it's like, okay.
I will say, because I did have one of, a podcaster and an influencer on, and she documented her IVF journey. And I thought it was so beautiful that she like let people into that moment. And like that to me was authentic. Where I was like, I know that there's a camera there propped up probably against a cup, like selfie taping you, injecting your belly, but like you're letting us into a vulnerable moment. I think I like that because I was like, that's authentic. Not like the recreating these family moments and like portraying a scene. Because I also think like there's a fine line, because like what you're promoting and putting out at times isn't achievable from this average family. And also it's not real for these families that are doing it too.
I think people are over that.
They get it.
I think the influencer stuff, there's still influencers, I'm thinking of some of the ones, because I follow some, there's not a lot of guy influencers really, but I think I follow some ladies that do it. My wife follows a lot, and a lot of them do it really well, and they put their kids in it, and it's their life. Yeah. And I get it. I mean, that they want to follow along with their life. Like putting the kids on there is its own separate thing, but I mean, a lot of them handle it really well. Yeah. But it's like the influencers in the wild account, which I'm sure you've seen. Yeah. I mean, it's like people are still out there doing that stuff. Totally. And I don't like nobody. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but nobody wants to see that.
I love this, because you're going to get home and your son's going to come up to you and be like, Dad, let's make a video together. And you're like, oh shit.
I know. It's like,
now I got to do this.
What kids in America want to be right now are influencers, but
look, I mean, our world's about to change just with these new goggles coming out. I mean, content and the world that we're living in is changing every single day. Social media, just all the virtual access, including school and Zooms.
Can you feel me shifting uncomfortably in my
I'm like,
seat? Yeah.
I was like, I saw a video the other day. There was this probably 2 or 3 year old crawling around, stumbling around, and like falling in puddles and like just a hot mess. Yeah. Like, and all of the comments, it was so funny. It was like, I'm like letting my 2 or 3 year old be a feral wild animal. Like, and like the top 10 comments were like, oh no, don't do this. Your kid's going to accidentally fall in love with nature. Or like, it was like sort of, it was just funny. Like the angle that people were taking, like, this was so refreshing to see, is like a kid, instead of scrolling on an iPad on a plane, actually like connecting with earth and nature and like running around. Yeah. It doesn't happen anymore.
No. And I feel like that kind of content of people on farms, ranches, Yellowstone. Yeah. Like, I mean, people just want to break free.
How wild is that?
I know. They want to break free from the concrete and the screens. I really feel like it's in our DNA to like be I mean, some of the best, I will feel the best when I'm like out in nature.
Yeah.
And I'm not enough. I live in Dallas. It's a giant parking lot. But like we're literally hotter than neighboring cities because of how much concrete is in our town. I don't know. I get nervous about the goggles and the AI stuff. And again, it's just like social media. It's like, it's good.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Will people use it for bad? Probably. And can we find a balance where there's always going to be people that are...
Do you guys have a screen time rule with the kids?
No, but we don't give them... They watch too much TV, but we don't give them iPads or phones or anything. And I think that's been really good so far. Sometimes, like if we're on a road trip, they can watch something.
Yep.
But we've tried really hard to not put at least the handheld screens in their hands unless we can...
Yes, someone told me something which made a lot of sense, and we've already discussed this, my husband and I. But it was, even if you let them watch you scrolling, they register how important that is to you, and then they want to make it important in their lives.
I'm not doing well in that department.
Yeah, so like, and look, you can only try your best, and like you have to work like that. That was like one thing that I had to explain to him too. He's like, "You're on your phone a lot." I'm like, I answer email. I work from my phone. I mean, yes, I have an iPad and a computer too, but like I get a lot of my work done from my phone. So I'm going to have to really dial that back because I want to parent in a way that's like, they see that I'm not tethered to this device. This device does not control me.
I just have to put it in a different room.
Yeah.
Like at dinner time and stuff, like I will, if it's near, I have enough notifications that are still on that I'll go look at it.
Yep.
And man, you're striking a nerve because I like my screen time went up when I started doing John the Dad, obviously, and they see me on it all the time. Yeah. And I need to set boundaries for myself. And sometimes I do. Like sometimes the only thing that'll work is if I just leave in a different room.
Yeah. I've had days where I've done detoxes ish. I'm like, I lock myself out because they have apps for everything now. Yeah, you can lock yourself out of certain apps on certain days and like certain time restrictions on certain days.
And then you go into the settings and disable that.
Yeah, I'm like enter passcode, override 10 more minutes, 10 more
Instagram.
minutes. Yeah. So where do you go? So say you want to film a video and you need a creative. Where do you go in Dallas to do that?
My house.
Okay,
it's all in my house. That's
your creative sanctuary.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I like it too because it's like it is my life.
Yeah.
So I don't need to, I think it's very rare that I'm not in my house or my backyard.
Yeah.
So, I would like to start going out a little more. I've got some ideas. Like I want to do one in the grocery store, but you can also just green screen yourself places.
And you're also going to be on influencers in the wild before you know it if you do that.
Yeah. My neighbors across the street have seen me film a couple times and they're just like, oh my God.
See, that's when I get embarrassed too, even. And like, I've done this for a long time. Like, even if I have a professional camera on, it doesn't matter. Like I was shooting the Netflix documentary and I get embarrassed about having a camera or crew around me.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just weirdly a vulnerable thing.
My neighbor came over the other day. We're all friends. And, he was like, yes, his wife's name's Sarah. My wife's name's Sarah too. He's like, yes, Sarah saw you, I was like, of all the skits, it was me. I was doing a nostalgia play. Me as a little kid saying I'm going to run away from home, right? So I'm dressed in this stupid jersey and, because I'm a kid, I'm on my knees, right? And pretending to be smaller. And in the skit, I like am packing up like bread and peanut butter and, stuffed Twizzlers and I put it on and I opened the door to walk out. Well, my neighbor was watching me across the street and that's mortifying. Because I did like 10 takes. I'm going to have to text Sarah. So she's just watching.
I know she videotaped just
opening and closing and doing this like 8-year-old stance. Like, and I didn't like 2 weeks later, they're telling me that they were just watching me filming it. And I'm like, okay, this is why I don't go outside. This is why I do it in my house.
I can see that. Yeah. I can see that. Well, we're going to do 2 or 3. So I can't wait for ours to come out.
Yeah.
So we'll put the creative in. I'll do them from my house or driveway.
Exactly.
And we'll cut ours
together.
Screen
ourselves in.
Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah.
This was great.
For having me, man.
I'm going to obviously have 1.5 million more questions when
I'm excited for you.
The little ones are here.
Excited
I am
for you.
too. I think I know.
You're going to be a great dad.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's so hard. It's so hard, but it's the most rewarding thing. It's true. Yeah. It's the most rewarding thing.
Live, laugh, love.
Yeah.
Before you go though, can you please leave us with one piece of advice?
Dad advice, I assume, because we're on the Daddyhood.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Okay. This is maybe cliche, but it's true. Be present with your kids as much as you can.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden they're 2 and then they're 4, and they're just 2 and 4 right now. But the fact that I have a 4-year-old, I'm like, you were just 1. And I have older, relatives that obviously that have kids that are in high school, and they're like, he was 1 like the other day. Yeah. And now he's 17. And that terrifies me more than the John the Dad or anything. That terrifies me is like that movie Click, where he like accidentally fast forwards through his whole life and doesn't really, that's scary.
Yeah.
And so just like put the phone away. It's okay to be on your phone. Put the phone away and make memories with your kids. And you don't have to go to Disney World or the Grand Canyon or whatever. You can just get on the ground and act like a centipede and wrestle with them.
Be the centipede.
Yeah.
Be present.
Make up stupid games. And those are the times that my kids are having the most fun, is when I'm just playing hide and seek with them or being a goofball. It doesn't really matter like how much money I spend or where we go. Actually, usually the more money I spend in the core of the place, the worse it is.
Yeah.
So at least at this age.
I love that. And I love that shirt. What is that?
Thank you.
What is that brand again?
Yeah, this is For Fathers, Fore. They're in
like a golf, like 4.
Yeah, like golf. So they make golf shirts, but this is like a bunch of little like pacifiers and balloons.
It's very on brand for the Daddyhood logos.
They have a Texas one too that they sent me.
So cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining.
Thank you for
That's
having me.
Daddyhood.
The ride of your life is Daddyhood.